Okay, this is John Gonder for Chabot College and my classes and in general. And this is a video about what I started to do last year and have been using quite a bit myself since then, which is large language models, AI, specifically ChatGPT, and now starting to use a couple others to create great things very quickly, at very least an excellent draft that I can then edit very quickly. And I want to talk really briefly about what we're doing here. So in my classes, for sure, you're doing reports, right? And you're using the standard scientific report format. And if you've ever read a scientific report, analysis of this effect of this drug or whatever, what's the first thing you see? You see an abstract, and that is a very short summary of each of the sections of the report, and it tells you briefly what was the thing we were looking for, what did we do, what do we think we found, what do we think it means, and if you are interested in that, then you delve deeply into the entire report. In the business community, that's called an executive summary. Unfortunately, none of your English teachers have taught you how to write the most important thing you will in your career, which is an abstract or an executive summary, for a lot of reasons. One, it's the money ball. When you do a penetration test and you make your report, these people have no idea what you did or what it means unless you put it in plain English in a very short format. So, since nobody taught you how to do this, well, how about we get some help getting our first draft? So what I call the usual headings is my version of a standard scientific report. Your name, a word count, a title, and for what we're doing, introduction, meaning what's the job, the abstract written last, which is a summary of all these other sections. Then, what did we do? What did we see? What do we think it means in terms of the original question or job? And then if we made quotes somewhere and we didn't provide an inline citation like, okay, so-and-so said so-and-so, and that's from IANA.org, whatever, a citation, and then an appendix, which we rarely need because our reports are not that long. Often in a pen test, you've done lots of reports, you've got lots and lots of stuff, and only the most important stuff for the question is actually in the report. But if they want to dive more deeply into stuff, that's what an appendix is for. So you've been given typically a text file to work from, and as you do your lab, you're putting your stuff in there in the right spot. So you're mostly done by the time you get finished with the lab, except you're going to fill out those phrases or words into something that means something. And then when you're all done, you're going to summarize in a sentence or two each of those sections in the abstract. Well, what if we had some help doing that summarization? Especially for folks who are not really used to writing some business email or some business report. Well, that's where ChatGPT comes in. Well, just real quickly, let's give a couple of examples of what constitutes a good abstract. Well, this is not a good abstract, and as a matter of fact, the writing itself is just more wordy than it needs to be, but that's part of what you'll see when you read this out loud to yourself, that it just does not fall easily from your tongue. So the problem here, or the job, was to create a new Wireshark trace and then do some things with it and then post the results. But what does the abstract say? Wireshark is a network packet analysis tool. Well, that has nothing to do with summarizing the job and the methods. Important weapon in the digital forensics article, in promiscuous mode. So this is talking about the operation, how Wireshark works. It says nothing about summarizing what our report is. That's not a good abstract. Well, here's an example of a good abstract. The title of this report was standing network packet capture of background services. And the abstract says, first of all, it summarizes what the job was. A standing start capture of packets over a short period of time was initiated. Notice it's third person and past tense. Was initiated on a computer not running any user-initiated software programs. Various packets were selected for analysis, detailing the following protocols. Blah, blah, blah. RFCs for these protocols were researched. Packets were commented on with corresponding screenshots. So if you want to know more about that, you read the rest of the report. Otherwise, if this is what you paid for, you write a check. A good money ball. Short, sweet, complete. Here are a couple things that I grabbed from previous abstracts. The title of this was Monitoring ARP Traffic with Wireshark on a Home Network. That's a good description of what the job is as a title. In order to observe and verify normal ARP functionality, Wireshark was used, monitor computer A, computer B connected, wirelessly ping, captured traffic, filtered, traffic observed, concluded that. So again, a short summary of each section of the report. That was an abstract. And here, monitoring standard DNS traffic. In order to observe and verify functionality of DNS, Wireshark used to monitor traffic. Browser was used to search for two known to exist websites, etc., etc. So a phrase or a sentence to summarize the introduction, what the job is or the goal, what was done, the methodology, what was found, the results, and then what it means in relation to the original job or question. So there we go. Well, sometimes it seems a lot harder than it really should be, because the process of summarizing things accurately, concisely, and yet completely is not something that we're generally taught. It's something that's learned over time, or a mentor in our business helps us out. Well, what can we do? Well, if you've been on this planet any time in about the last year, you've heard and maybe even already used large language modules, large language models, natural language processing devices like ChatGPT. I've used it for a number of different things, for assisting and writing large sections of curriculum, experimenting with using it to write quizzes, experimenting with it to create summaries of particular concepts. Often I might spend a day or two writing a couple of pages of stuff and editing it, but if in the space of a couple of minutes I can have an 80% done draft by the quality of my question, the quality of my prompt, to give me something I can edit down, that's really good. And in a couple of cases, I've done 2 weeks' work in the space of a couple of hours. So these devices can do a lot of things for us. And what we get out of it is going to be determined by the quality of our question. Asking good questions is an art. And refining your prompts is something you're going to be doing. Asking once, seeing what you get, seeing what it lacks or what you failed to say when you ask that question, redoing your prompts, and that's what I've done. At the same time, however, keeping track of what I said and what I got, and then what I said next and what I got next, to be able to zero in on a prompt that gives me as closely as possible what I'm looking for. Now, these large language models are limited in what they've been given for information, and one of the drawbacks is they'll have a tendency to make stuff up if they don't know. And in this case, this was an experiment someone did in saying, well, what if I ask ChatGPT to write me instructions? And if you've ever done crocheting or knitting, they're very particular mathematically oriented instructions about exactly what to do, knit one, purl two, etc. And if you don't know how to write that stuff properly, this is what you'll get out of it if you ask it to write me the crochet instructions to create a narwhal stuffed toy. So there's the narwhal's horn, apparently. So, and I've had that experience as well. So first, if you don't know, what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about this site, openai.com, and creating an account, which is free, and then being able to use ChatGPT. Now, I have downloaded the conversations that I've had with ChatGPT, and that allows me to show you a little bit of what are some of my questions, what did I ask, and what did I get. Let's take a quick look at that. So when I asked it to download my data, it gave it to me in a couple different formats. One was actually a web page. And so here's one of the first experiments I did, which is, well, how about you try to make me a list of the top local area problems an IT administrator might encounter. Put the result in a file that I can download via link. Well, in this case, ChatGPT at that time was not able to create a file I could download. Now, since then, it's able to send me the data, but it made a list that was actually pretty good. And so I could use this as a basis and edit and copy this, change things that might be less important, add something that I think is more important on this top 10 list. And in the case of a couple of minutes, I have something that might otherwise have taken me an hour. Same thing. I asked it again to do the same thing, and it does it a little bit differently. So that's where you can regenerate the same question over and over again. Well, let's see what you know. Do you know the name of a famous jazz drummer named Eddie? Yes, that was Eddie Marshall. I had the great pleasure to play a gig with Eddie Marshall one time. It was a master class. It really was. And then a couple other just random things. What's the first prime number larger than 100,000? And you can have a lot of fun with it. Well, then, I haven't gotten done editing this yet, but this is something I'll throw up a little bit later this semester probably. It's a 15-question true-false quiz covering the basic points of my syllabus. Well, I fed it my syllabus, and then it gave me a set of questions, true-false. And then I noticed at the market that grade B eggs are about half the price of grade AA. Well, they look pretty much like an egg, but I wasn't really sure what makes it grade B. Oh, there we go. And then I was working on solving a problem to get a password. And so give me all the 5-letter combinations of these 5 letters. So in terms of tutorials, if you have a question about how to do something, well, it's easy enough to Google. But I've been finding that I can get a lot of really good step-by-step, clear, crisp instructions much more quickly through ChatGPT. And there's a number of AI add-ons to things now that have come out, like Bard. And these same large language modules are being incorporated into a lot of search facilities. I've also been experimenting with creating new labs, and where if I can give a good description of what that lab should be, ChatGPT can write me the step-by-step of how to accomplish that far more quickly than I could, and then I can edit that to get it very precisely. So then in terms of writing an abstract, here was my first try at having ChatGPT write an abstract for a set of notes that I took in doing a particular lab, my first baseline report. And I said, simply write an abstract for a scientific report that summarizes this experiment, and here's the title. And then I fed it what I did. I fed it the introduction. I fed it my methods step by step. I fed it the results that I did. I couldn't feed it any pictures. And then I fed it the discussion that I had. And in this particular lab last year, there were a set of questions to be answered as a part of the job by utilizing what was captured in the Wireshark. And then, did I have any citations? There we go. So here's what ChatGPT gave me. The experiment titled aim to, so this doesn't need to be in the baseline, does it? First thing I noticed was this is more verbose and longer than it needs to be, but it was very precise. So I could modify my prompt to say, be more precise. Or I could just, having found this, then edit it to be what I want. The experiment aimed, I could just eliminate that because I don't need that, etc., etc. Does results revealed, interesting findings, blah, 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 blah. So here in a few sentences, I have gotten a good start at a good abstract for this work. Well, this is what, if you're not comfortable writing a good abstract, my suggestion is think about using ChatGPT for yourself to start to generate a draft for you to give you a good starting place. That doesn't mean that you're going to take that and plug it in, because I will know that. And if you do use ChatGPT, I'm going to mention that in the next lecture as well. I'm going to want you to do it the way we did it in this last spring. I'm going to ask you to, in addition to your report that you put in with your final abstract, I'm going to ask you to show me what your prompt was and then what the original result was in ChatGPT before you edited it. In this case, Nancy had asked ChatGPT twice. She had it regenerate to try to get a different version, maybe a better one to work with, or maybe she refined her prompt for the second time. This is the thing that will help you, because 40 to 50% of all jobs are going to change dramatically. A lot of people are saying a lot of jobs are going away, but more than simply going away, the jobs are going to change dramatically. And the ability to write a good prompt, to understand what there is, and to use this tool to quickly generate very close to what we want as a finished product is an extremely valuable skill. Now, can't be required beyond the scope of this class per se, but feel free to do this. Go to openai.com, use your report, feed it to ChatGPT, learn to use a good prompt to get a good starting point, and edit that to get a good abstract. So, how can you use ChatGPT for your reports? Well, first do the lab work, and then while you're doing that, take notes in the template, putting things where they should go, which you're going to do anyway. Refine your notes so that they make sense, and then give that to ChatGPT with a good prompt and evaluate that result. And then, if needed, regenerate that or refine your prompt and regenerate that answer till you get something that works as a good starting point. Copy and save that output separately, because you're going to put that in to show me what you did, what was your prompt, and what ChatGPT gave you. You can edit that result then and use that as your abstract in your report, but make sure to add a citation in that report saying abstract from ChatGPT assisted. Let me know that you are using ChatGPT to assist you. That's fine. This is a great tool, and it will be very useful for you to learn to use it. Lastly, I was very pleased to see in looking at ACM that ACM is already on the ball. There are 32 different courses, 10 different books, 289 different videos, and I've looked at some of these. There's some really excellent stuff here, starting from very basic, a total beginner. What the heck is ChatGPT? What is an AI? On to very advanced prompts that I found very challenging. So, free for you is great training in what is going to be one of the most important aspects of your coming career. And then Open Tools has a newsletter that's coming out every few days. I'm seeing what's going on in AI all over the place. So if you're serious about keeping up with what's going on, keeping up with what's going on in AI and around you, this is an example of one of the newsletters that you should be getting. So there you go, short and sweet. How to make a good money ball, how to use ChatGPT to generate a good starting point for your abstract or executive summary in a report.